The 2JZ engine is the baddest import engine ever built. If you try to compare it to any of these engines, you're out of your mind. I'm not a huge fan of the A90 Supra, sorry, but the B58 isn't a better engine than the 2J in any way, shape, or form. The 2J is just a better engine.
I kind of feel like you're trolling. Are you serious?
I promise you, I could build a 2J that could run 7s on a draggy on the street. I might do it just because you're looking at me crazy too, to be very honest.
7s on the draggy
Yeah,
on the
I
street?
might do it. We will have the fastest import in the world on a 275 tire, period, end of discussion. If you feel some kind of way, call me, we'll race.
Welcome back to another episode of the Street Alpha Podcast. I am your host, Tukes, and we are in Hempstead over at Limitless Auto Body in New York. Victor is the owner of Induction Performance, Bradenton track, right?
Yep.
And also FL2K, which will be coming up in October?
October 3rd through 6th. Yeah.
So let's give a round of applause for Victor. Cool. So I'm happy that you flew out here because this is pretty much your hometown. This is where you're from, right?
Yeah, it's crazy because when we talked about where to do it, and I said Limitless, I didn't realize at the time, but this is like full circle for me because I pretty much grew up here, like literally here. Right next door used to be Pro Speed, and I fell in love with street racing, and I got my competitiveness that I have today literally right here. Like right
this
here.
whole shop was all connected? It was all one, or?
Nah, so like the next building over was Pro Speed, and we used to street race out here. We used to work on cars out here. I mean, I'm talking like every night of the week. When I say we, my dad, I was too young, but I used to come out here with my dad, and this was the most exciting part of my childhood, was coming out here and racing and being around him and his friends. And a lot of fast dudes came out of here. Like, I mean, you know, back in the day, I would be hanging out with Craig Paisley's shop was right down the street. One of at the time, the fastest Supra.
What year was this? I'm sorry.
This is 95 to 99. I was a kid. I mean, even up to like 2000 and probably 1 or 2, we used to race right here, right down the street. You know, Ricky Bailey, Top Level Performance, Sean Ivey, rest in peace, Shorty or Booga with the Hondas. My dad, obviously. Bert, rest in peace, Pro Speed, the Eclipse guy. But like that was all right here. This is like where I fell in love with, at the time, street racing.
Yeah. So this is one of the popular spots back then for all street racing, or? Nah,
this was kind of like the Long Island crew of import guys. We were all like based out of here. And it's like, there was so much competition within. Like even like all the friend groups, they would all race each other. And like that's it. They would even, back then it was the Nextel. I would be at home and just hoping that I would hear my dad's Nextel go, you know, chirp.
Nextel, I forgot.
Yeah, this is back in the day. And they would be like, yo, we want to test this car we just did to see where we're at. And like, that's how it was. Like you would call your boy, we would race, we'd see where we're at and be like, okay, we can go race this guy, we can go race that guy. And if there was, you know, somebody that we wanted to beat, like, oh, okay, car's fast enough now, we can go run this guy. It was right here. That all happened right here.
You were probably like, what, 7 or 8? Maybe?
Yeah, so I mean, from the time I was like 8, I think I started going to the street races with my dad. And like low-key stuff. Like I said, this was, you know, his friend's shop. And we would just hang out. And I grew up at my dad and my uncle's shop. And I liked the cars. My dad had a Supra. I got into Supras. And I knew I liked like the speed and the racing as my dad started getting into that. But the competitive nature of the sport. And honestly, like the fact that you could be so competitive with your friends, and like it was, I mean, these guys would go at it, but they were still friends. Like I really enjoyed that. And yeah, that's where I got it from.
So you were able to see like the Supra, which, you know, is a big part of your, you know, your career now. Yeah. It was in its early stages of what it is now.
Yeah, I remember going to the movie theater and seeing Fast and Furious, you know what I mean? Like, and at the time, see, like my dad had an older Supra, he had an 89 Supra. And I like loved that, thought that was cool. And the newer Supras were coming out, but not everybody had them in New York. And like, you know, it was a big deal to have one. And I remember seeing that movie and like seeing the changes in like the scene from then till the couple years after that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty young, but I've been doing this a really, really long time. I've been like really into it for a long time.
Do you think that Fast and Furious is what put this car on the map?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it was already somewhat on the map, don't get me wrong, but like globally, the recognition that Supras get is 100% because of that movie. Yeah.
Do you feel like if it was like a Mark III Supra maybe, that it'd be just as popular? No?
Nah, these cars are, the Mark IV Supra is a very iconic car. I mean, that car was, in my opinion, like 20 years ahead of its time as far as like technology and like what it was capable of. And the look, there wasn't much that looked quite like it. I mean, beautiful car. It was way ahead of its time. I think that was a part of the reason.
So growing up, who were like some of the fastest guys with this car, you know, at that time, who were putting
in the street or in the track?
So let's not get to the track stuff yet. Okay. Let's focus more on the street stuff. Cause I'm from out here. I'm from Long Island. So I never got to experience that growing up.
I mean, I'm talking way back. I don't know when you got in the scene. I'm talking way back.
Probably like 06, 07.
So before that, my dad, Fernando, had a red Supra, a Mark III that was really fast and pretty well respected in the street. Indian had a yellow Supra, Mark IV Supra, that was really fast. Anthony had a blue Supra. Stanley, he had a couple Supras. T&R Racing had the RX-7s. That was a rivalry at that time. And then all the fast Eclipses at that time were coming out of Pro Speed. And like at that time, it was Eclipses, RX-7s, Supras, some like 300 ZXs, but like all those cars, and they were anywhere from like 400 to 600 horsepower. And I mean, if you had an 11-second car back then, that was like really fast. If you had a 10-second car, that was unheard of.
But how did you guys know it was like an 11-second car if you didn't go to the track?
I mean, we would go to the track as well. So I mean, back then, so that's the other thing. Back then, we had Long Island Dragway, which closed down.
Where was that?
That was in like the East Hampton. Oh, so shit. Every Sunday,
I never knew that.
Every Sunday we would meet here, and we would all drive in a group to Long Island Dragway and race, like to test our cars.
And this is a quarter mile.
Yeah, quarter mile. It was a really cool track. It actually reminds me a lot of like Bradenton, because it was like it's a very like not a huge track, and just had this like grassroots feeling to it. You know, it was an awesome track. I pretty much grew up there. But we would go there. We'd go to Atco. We'd go to Englishtown. Englishtown had test and tune on Wednesday and Friday. So we had tracks back then. Right. The street racing side of it was just more of a like, people like to gamble on the street, and you know, the culture then was you would go to somebody's shop and you would hang out and you would start talking shit, and it would lead to one thing to another. Yo, we're going to Nassau tonight, or we're going here tonight, or we're going wherever tonight. And they would get busy and they would race for money. And again, these are people that like, it could be your best friend. Yeah. And like tonight, he's not your best friend. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to kill this dude, and then they go right back to it. So that's kind of like why the street racing thing was kind of cool. And also, back then there were more advantages that you could take it, like more things you could take advantage of on the street. You know, back then we used to race with a flagman, none of this like flashlight shit and all that.
Also, everything was off the hands, basically.
No, yeah, we used to race off hands. And if you were good, that was an advantage too. You know what I mean? Right. So I think that's why street racing was so cool back then. Because I was talking about this earlier with someone. It's like, back then you could take a slower car and beat a bigger, badder, big dog car, and that was a huge accomplishment. Right. Like, I don't want to win a race that my car is just a better car and that's it. Like, I want to be like, yo, I busted that dude's ass because I outdrove him. I left before him. My car is slower and I still beat him. You know, like, right. That was what it was after. And, you know, like we say it now, you know, any two cars could race. Back then, that's how it was. Like, you know, if you felt that you needed something, you asked for a car, in the brake, you asked for whatever, and you did whatever you had to do to race, but these guys would race. There was no social media. You weren't scared to have a video posted that you lost and all that. If you lost, you came back sometimes the next day, sometimes the same night. and you ran the person again. You know, you'd go change your nitrous jets, you do whatever. But the competition was just different. It was a whole different game. Social media changed, you know, the racing scene a lot, and a lot of it was for the better. Yeah. But it also, there's a lot of dudes that hide behind it.
I agree. I agree. I think a lot of people are scared to, you know, like you said, post their losses.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you really race, I tell people this all the time. Like, if you really race and you really love racing and you're really into it, you have to learn how to lose, and you have to lose with pride. Because if you race enough, you're gonna lose. And honestly, if you race enough, you'll probably lose more than you win. Like, you know. Yeah. And back then, nobody was scared to lose. Like, yo, I have this thing I say all the time. Like, if I'm racing, and the person next to me, the car next to me, whatever, that man got to show me. Like, it does not matter. Right. And that's how it was. That's the era that I come from. Now it's like, oh, no, like these guys want guaranteed wins, you know? Yeah. Oh, nah, man, these guys are going to roast me on social media. Like, man, fuck all that. That man got to show me. We got to race. And that's how it was.
So were the forums pretty popular? Like, how did people kind of get word of like who's winning, who's the top
No, that was just, I mean, street stuff was just street stuff. Okay. Like, it wasn't really like that. Like for me, I got on Supra forums in probably like 2000, 2001 or something like that. And honestly, it was a whole different world. Those guys weren't really talking about street racing. It wasn't really a thing. And like, even when they did, it was more like highway roll racing stuff. Yeah. Where, you know, in the city and Long Island, like the guys that I was around, we would all race from a stop. They would shut down the highways and they would race. They would get, I mean, all over the place. Right. Yeah.
So you weren't doing any roll racing back then?
I wasn't doing a damn thing. Okay. I was a promoter.
Gotcha.
So I was the little kid that I was really, really passionate about this stuff, which I still am. And like, I would, you know, it's funny, the old school guys that know me, they would literally say that I've always been a promoter, because if you wanted to see a race happen and I knew about it, or if I wanted to see a race happen and it was two, you know, sometimes it would be two guys that just, they don't want to race each other because they're friends, or they don't want to race each other for whatever reason, I'd get them to race.
So what would you do? Give me an example of what you would say.
I would say whatever I had to say, yo, you two should race tonight, whatever. And whatever they would say, I would give them the reason they should do it. And I would tell them they were being a punk or a pussy or whatever. I used to get after it. I mean, and like, don't get me wrong, like I've grown obviously a lot since then.
Yeah. This is years ago.
But I do the same thing. Now, as a race promoter, I talk shit. We just had the reunion race a couple weeks ago at Bradenton. Yeah. And I was online calling out everybody under the sun who wants to do something in qualifying, who wants to gamble, who wants this. We're going to send this dude home first round. Like, I do the same thing now, just in a different setting.
Right. It's more like business oriented now.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I think why I'm good at what I do is because I do enjoy it. But it's the same thing. It's literally like the same thing I was doing when I was a loudmouth 12-year-old kid calling people out for my dad or for his friends or whatever. And like, I used to get races like popping, like for real. I still do that.
So your dad had a shop, right?
Yep.
So what were some of the cars outside of Supras that you guys were working on?
So my dad and my uncle had just like a general automotive shop. And then my dad had a Supra. He started messing with it, started racing it. And the way it worked back then, if you had a fast car on the street or at the street races or whatever, people would seek you out to work on their car. So it turned into just general repair and just general automotive stuff to, we were doing Supras all the time. And it was really, for the most part, just Supras. I remember my dad did like a Turbo Civic, and he did a couple other cars, but it was mainly Supras, yeah.
So what I always wondered was back then, right? Because I know social media may have ruined the sport of racing.
Yeah, in some ways.
When it comes to building cars, at least back then, where are people getting information?
That was what made it so special. It was like, you would see a car do something on the street, and you wanted that. And honestly, back then, the information wasn't so easy to come across. Right. So a lot of shops would do the same recipe on everybody's thing, or they would have like a couple, like, all right, like, you know, my dad went through several different stages of his car. So if you came to him and you say, hey, I have a Supra and I want to do blah, 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 he would be like, okay, well, with that budget or whatever, we could do this. And like, it was just what he knew. It was the first rendition of his build. Yeah. You know what I mean? And his build would progress obviously over time. But a lot of shops back then, it was a lot of copy paste, because I mean, the resources weren't like what we have today. Sometimes somebody would try 3 or 4 different turbos on their car till they found one that was the right one. You know what I'm saying? Where it spooled right and it made good power and it didn't hurt anything or whatever the case. So you relied heavily on that shop that you would go to give you the right information. You didn't have a fact check. You know what I mean? Like now, that information's everywhere. You got a 6870 with this back housing and this and the stroker engine, or whatever, down to the fuel. Some people will share timing numbers that they run. Like that information's everywhere now. Yeah. So you could fact check it. Back then it wasn't like that. You had to rely on the builder.
Were there any shops that were doing great machine work? Because that's probably a big important part too of building.
Yeah. No, I mean that's always been kind of a struggle. My dad had a good thing going back in the day. He used to use Westchester crankshaft.
Oh, they're still around?
Yep. Yeah, they are. Yeah. We used to use Lab in Long Island to do cylinder heads. They closed. I know that they just retired or whatever. That's who we used. And like for every platform there was a place that you went. You know what I mean? But it was very different too. Like a lot of these guys, like as far as like the guys that had shops that had fast cars, they didn't care about working on their car. So like they didn't necessarily, looking back at it now, always do it the right way, but they would race that weekend. And then on Monday, if they had to rebuild it, they would rebuild it. It was whatever. That's what it was.
Were there any other platforms that were like keeping up with these cars back then? Maybe like, popular platforms like a Skyline, because when Fast and Furious came out, that was
I mean, there weren't really any Skylines here yet. You would have, like I said, 300ZXs, RX-7s, the DSM stuff, so Eclipses, Talons. There were a couple guys that had 3000 GTs that were fast, Typhoons and Cyclones, the GMC trucks and stuff. Yeah. Wow. Grand Nationals. I remember back in the day, Turbo People, which they're still around in a capacity that they tune cars. They tune Brett LaSala's Green Mustang.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they had a shop, and if a Cyclone or a Typhoon or a Grand National rolled up to the races and had Turbo People sticker on it, everybody was shook, like for real. And then, there was the whole other side of it was the domestic guys. There were guys with, you'd have a G-body car come out to Nassau and do a wheelie the whole way. Like there's still that you could find that on YouTube,
Right.
The Hondas, there were some Hondas that towards the end of my time being here, they were going really fast. They started to get really, really fast. I remember vividly, like the only race that stands out in my head that I watched my dad lose was to a Turbo Civic, and thing was just stupid fast.
B series, I'm assuming.
Yeah, right? Back then it was all B series. All B series. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the scene was different, man. Like I said, just everybody wanted to go fast, and these guys would do it at whatever expense. And they were putting turbos on everything they could and nitrous on everything they could. And like, honestly, like before you had the forums and, all the information that we have available today, people would do crazy, stupid shit to go fast. And if they blew stuff up, but they would figure it out. Like, it was looking back at it, it was really cool to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I came in, like I said before, I came into the scene probably like 2008.
Yep.
So that whole era of like hanging out at shops, people racing.
Yep.
Even in 2014, it was kind of like that, but that was the culture then.
That was the culture. The culture was way different, and it was a lot of fun, man. Like the competitiveness is what I've always loved about it. That's still to this day what I enjoy about racing is the competitiveness and the fact that these guys, like I said, they would be so competitive with their friends. You'd see them like yelling and screaming and like just whatever it took. Like they would go to war with these people and they were friends with them. Like that competitiveness I really enjoyed.
So one of the things now that you mentioned before in terms of like how things have changed, the handicap. You don't really get too much into it.
Yeah.
But that was a common thing.
Man, sometimes it would just be like a disrespect thing. Like
and
if you really wanted to get somebody to drive their car, because sometimes they wouldn't want to drive their car or they wouldn't want to race, whatever. It was just like there's so much pride and competitiveness that like we're in a shop and there's 50 people. Like, I'll give you 2 cars in the break. You can't say no. Like, you're going to go home and everybody, that dude's a bitch. Like, straight up. Like, that's what it was. And that competitiveness, people would give stuff that they shouldn't have given. But again, if you stipped it right and you were a good driver, sometimes it would work out in your favor. I remember one time being in a street race, I'll never forget it. And dude told us, man, I'll give you 10 cars in the break because you're a punk and you won't get in your car. And that dude went home a punk. And he's still, to this day, we see him, yo, I know you, that dude that didn't race that guy. Like, crazy. He's still a punk in my eyes, you know what I mean? But like, that's how it was. It was just so competitive, man. It was very, very different. Now there's this like fear of internet humiliation. That shit is whack.
Right.
Like, again, if you really race and you race a lot, you're going to lose. I've lost races that I should have won. I've lost races that I shouldn't have even gotten into. But I'm that way. Like, if somebody gets me hype and they say they're gonna beat me, they got to show me. So let's race. And if I would lose that way, it is what it is. But I would die on that hill. Like, we're gonna race. I ain't no punk. It's just not like that no more.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
So Mikey.
Yep.
What was the relationship with you guys?
Yeah.
Rest in peace to Mikey also.
Yeah. So I knew Mikey way before M&S Performance. We became really good friends. He started coming around my dad's shop by way of other mutual friends. And at the time he had a Honda and it had Gucci interior. And so like when I say I've been doing this forever, I had accounts and I was like wholesale, like I was buying parts wholesale and selling people parts when I was like 8th grade, something like that.
Okay.
Like I would literally like in school, when you get computer time, I would print like a wholesale application for whatever it was. And I'd go to the shop on the weekend with my dad and make him help me fill it out. And like, I was like into it.
Yeah.
So anyways, I sold Mikey a turbo and an AEM standalone computer for his Honda in probably like 03, 02, something like that.
Yeah.
And I helped him and watched him build that car, and we became friends. And he loved the Supra stuff. And I remember, I think he went to Virginia and bought his black Mark IV Supra that he was very well known for having. He did a lot with. He bought that car right before I moved to Florida. Same thing. I sold him parts for it. I remember I sold him. He bought the car. He came to New York. He bought an exhaust from me and was excited. Started going. Shortly after that, I moved to Florida. We still maintain a relationship. And a couple years later, he started getting his shop going. We started getting our shop going. And my partner, Alpha, started tuning cars for him. He would buy parts from us. And we just always again, don't get me wrong, we had a lot of love for each other. We were really good friends. There was times where we were really competitive and we would go against each other. Yeah. Nothing like
friendly though, right?
Yeah, friendly, like, we're going to race or whatever. But through it all, we remained really good friends and we helped each other build what we had at the time. And he was just a good dude. A lot of people liked to be around him, and he was just one of them guys. He was fun to be around. He had that competitive edge, and he was about it. Like when it came time to race, he was with it. Yeah, he was very serious. So rest in peace to Mike. Great dude. And it was a pleasure being friends with him.
So he was building a lot of Supras, but I think maybe like 2016, the GTR was a very popular thing. So
I mean, and it's a natural progression. Like there was a time where the conversation at Induction was like, man, we got to start working on other cars because like we're gonna run out of Supras to work on. Yeah. So yeah, we got a GTR. Mikey got a GTR. Like that was the progression. We thought that was the next big thing, and it was for a while, and it still is. I think the GTR thing's fallen off a little bit. The R8s and Lambos are kind of taking that over, but yeah, that was just a natural progression from a business standpoint. For us, it's just proven to not be the case. We still we're at a point where we're going back and like only working on Supras, and we're so busy and so backed up, and like we have a full schedule of just doing Supra stuff. And me and Alpha have always been of the belief that like I would rather be the best at what I do than just be okay at this and okay at this and okay at this. So like the 2J stuff, that's our thing. That's our, like, we got that. Right. We've tested it all. We still develop stuff. Like, we're always doing R&D. We've blown it up. But whatever you could do with a Supra, we've done it already. So customers come to us and they're not, it doesn't, they don't have to read on the forums. They don't have to, their buddy told them this. Like, we have real life experience. We're not using their car and their money for R&D. Right. So we're going back to the Supra thing. But yeah, so he got big into the GTRs. We got into it for a little bit too. At the time they were fast. We both had 8-second GTRs. And this is in 20. That's like 2016 to like 2017, 18.
8-second GTRs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Alan? He had I think he had a red.
Yeah. I was just talking. I sold Alan a turbo the other day.
Yeah, he was. He used to be he was in Deer Park for a while, and then he moved.
When Mikey passed, he was in the shop for a little bit and then turned into Empire. And he had a red GTR for a while. That was fast. He was scared to death of this car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they made me ship this car up here.
This specific car?
They made me ship this car up here and ducked and dodged me all night. Then went out with the tuner, did some pulls and blew it up. Yeah, they were shook at the Supra.
So tell me about this car. What's the history with this car?
This car is just cool because, so when me and Alpha started Induction 2011, this was one of our first big customer builds. So we built it for a guy in Louisiana. He said he saw us racing at TX2K, and he wanted us to build him a car. So it was one of our it was just when you get your first good build, you take a lot of pride in it.
Yeah.
And the car was really nice. It's a beautiful car, low mileage car, white 97 Supra, beautiful car. We got the opportunity to build it. It turned out great. We went to Texas the following year with him. And at the time, they didn't even have roll racing yet, really, in Texas. They would put V-boxes in everybody's cars, which a V-box, I don't know how far back you go. So a V-box.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't even know what that is.
A V-box plugged into your cigarette lighters, this huge box, you put it on your windshield, and it was like a draggy. And it would tell you your 60 to 130 time. So at TX2K, years ago, when they didn't have real roll racing, we would just do 60 to 130 hits. It was a small competition. It was mainly Supras, but and Vipers and stuff, but we would do 60 to 130 hits. So we ran it there, and then he went out on the street and he was kicking ass all weekend. And then from this car and the success of this car, more people started to follow. And then a couple years later, I got the opportunity to buy the car. I bought it. And then when I was given the opportunity to buy Bradenton, I had a bunch of Supras and I had to get rid of some and sold it to my brother Malik, and so it stays in the family.
What were you selling it for at that time?
Money wise?
Yeah, money wise.
It was a family deal, so it wasn't too much, but probably $100,000.
100,000.
Yeah,
is it for sale now?
I mean, everything got a price.
Would it still be around that price now?
Nah, it'd be a lot more than that now.
A lot more?
Yeah.
How much more?
Well, this car has sentimental value, so
okay.
And you never want to buy a car that's not for sale. You buy a car that's not for sale, you got to pay that tax.
That's true.
So there's a price,
point,
but it ain't gonna be a nice one.
Right. This car you said it was a car that was feared back then, right?
Yeah, it was. It was one of many that we built that was, yeah.
So what GTRs, because from what I remember, Allen's GTR was a car that I remember being one of the fastest around that time.
Yeah, I mean, Two Lips will say anything. They said it was fast, but we shipped this car up here to race, and I couldn't tell. So I don't know. But I mean, on paper, it should have been fast. But again, it goes back to what I was saying. If you pick the right race, which I felt like I picked the right race and negotiated the right race, and you know how to drive, and you know your strengths and your weaknesses, any two cars can race. So I mean, the car was fast. I know it was an 8-second car at the time. I think we were supposed to do something stupid, a 60 or a 70 roll at the time. And this car gets real busy from that speed, and it dead hooks, and it makes a lot of power. And I was going to leave before him, and he was going to have to show me.
It's funny because you said that the 60 to 130, you guys were doing hits for that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought that draggy was kind of putting the 60 to 130 thing on the map.
So the original 60 to 130 deal was with a V-box. And Google it. It's it would be for the younger crowd to look at, which we're about the same age, but either way, for you to look at, it would be looking at a VCR.
Really?
It's wild shit. Compared to a draggy, it's a VCR.
So how did you so it would have a digital display basically?
Yeah.
And it would tell you?
Man, if I remember right, did those things print too? I know they had a digital display, and it looked like a Nokia phone, but it would tell you your 60 to 130 time, yeah.
And would it tell you anything else?
Nah, I think it was capable, but we really only used it for the 60 to 130 thing. And when I tell you this was not, TX2K was the only place that did this. Peter Block was the only one that knew this data, and bought these boxes, and that was just the TX2K thing. TX2K deserves all the credit for roll racing on tracks, 60 to 130 stuff, turning into what it is. That was all TX2K.
Right. They were kind of innovative. They were
the pioneers of that. They were the first ones to do roll racing on a track. They did it on some track in Texas that was a circle track. Then they did it when they moved from Hennessy. They had a longer track. They did it there, and it grew legs and it took off. But don't let anybody fool you. As far as roll racing, in a controlled environment on a drag strip, 60 to 130 stuff, all the credit goes to TX2K for that.
Wow.
For that being what it is today, at least in my opinion.
So the GTRs, what were you guys doing to make them go 8s back then? Because that's still kind of in my head right now. I'm you said that. I mean,
now it's easy.
But you guys just nitrous back then?
We tried that too. Not a lot of people did, but yeah, we tried that too. No, I mean, back then it was, you can call Boost Logic and get a turbo kit, AMS, ETS, but it was, you had to get a transmission built, build the engine, standalone when that was available, like when Motec became available. If not, you got to do ECU Tech or Cobb. You would do 12 injectors with a Cobb and all these things to control it. I mean, back to what I was saying earlier, people figured it out. Like, they wanted these cars to go that fast, and they did whatever they had to do. I remember the first GTR to run sevens. Like, that was a huge deal.
Wait, was it like around that time? Or
I don't remember the year, but yeah, probably somewhere around that time. I think it was AMS.
AMS,
that black GTR.
Yeah,
the
AMS.
Alpha Omega GTR. Yeah. But that's the thing about racing. And like, these people, people that are like into racing, you can't tell them they can't do anything.
That's facts.
They will figure this shit out. So like, the begin, like when you see a platform come out, the beginning is the coolest part, seeing the development and the trials and tribulations and all the things that people go through, and we don't stop. We'll do whatever to figure it out. I remember seeing some crazy stuff. I remember seeing GTRs with 18 injectors and all these things. Like, it didn't matter, whatever it took, they had to do it. The transmissions on a GTR, like, to the amount of stuff that people broke to learn, to develop, to get to that point where now these guys can go sixes in those cars. Insane. Like, millions of dollars of broken parts, literally. Like, but that's what it takes. And like, I think that's what we all enjoy, and that's why like you start to see now all those GTR guys are getting R8s and getting Lambos, and it's like the next thing,
Yeah.
But a lot of us enjoy the path to get there.
Right. So when the GTR came out with the DCT, was that more of something that was difficult to kind of challenge with the Supra, because you're still kind of shifting gears?
No, I mean, so it's gotten to a point now where with most new cars that, cars like this, we make the power, but on the street, you just can't keep up. You can't, it doesn't matter how good of a driver you are, you just can't compete. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the A90 Supra, sorry. But
that's all right.
if you compare how fast how quickly those cars have become as fast as they are, and how relatively easy it is to make an A90 Supra run 8s or even now 7s.
Yeah.
I mean, the technology is it's evolved so much between the transmissions, the suspension, the weight distribution. Like, those A90 Supras just hook and go. Like, they're really, it's an amazing platform. Don't get me wrong, in the 90s, you could buy one of these, let's say even early 2001, you could buy one of these and buy a bunch of catalog parts from HKS or Greddy and have a 9-second car. Pretty easily, and in that time, that was the same thing. It was extremely impressive, but the technology is hard to compete with.
So, what if you take like a transmission or a ZF8 and put it into? Yeah,
no, there's guys starting to do it, and I've thought about tinkering with it, and we probably will at some point. We built a lot of Supras for people who are kind of like purists and collectors and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it would definitely, the 2JZ engine is the baddest import engine ever built.
Everybody knows that now. You
can't
even argue that at all.
Yeah. Like, if you try to say that even the GTR engine, if you try to compare it to any of these engines, you're out of your mind.
Well, wait, why not the GTR? I don't think I've ever kind of.
The 2JZ is just a better engine.
Why do you think it's a better engine than the GTR?
Because GTRs break a lot and 2Js don't.
Are you talking about the motor or just the platform?
Just the engine. Like a VR38 versus a 2JZ. 2JZ 10 times better on paper, in my head, and in real life. It's just what it is. And we're talking about a motor from the 90s. Like, an extremely capable engine. It's like the engines are still capable, but making power is half the battle.
Right.
You got to put it down. You got to have the right gear ratios, the transmissions that shift the way that they shift. Like, there's a lot of ways to mess it up in a car like this. And like, the driver is a huge part of it, and let's face it, we're not breeding many badass drivers anymore. Like, this is going to sound messed up, but I'm not taking a shot at anyone.
Facts, but you got to speak facts.
My man, when I grew up racing, you had to use a clutch almost all the time.
Yeah.
You had to shift. You had to shift as fast as you possibly could because you had a Honda or a 4-cylinder with a huge turbo would fall out of boost. You had to shift as fast as you could without breaking it. You had to learn how to let go of that clutch and launch without breaking stuff. Like, there was a lot of the driver was almost the biggest part of the recipe.
That's a fact.
The biggest part of the success in those times was a driver. You could buy A90 Supra now, and I could put my wife in it and go 8s. You know what I mean? Like right away, literally right away.
Yeah.
And put her in a week. I could train her to go to TX2K and put hurt in a lot of these dudes.
Do you think it's a fair comparison though, because it's a BMW motor?
No, I mean, that's part of the reason I'm not a huge fan of those cars.
Okay.
I've never, the BMW, you can't deny that it's good technology. I'm just not a fan of it. I think maybe I'm more of a purist too.
Right.
And the electronics and just all that stuff, like the direct injection, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just an old man now, like whatever, but.
Yo, we're about the same age, bro.
Yeah, but I've been doing this a long time. But
I know.
To me, I'm not crazy about it. You can't deny what it does. You can't doubt its capabilities, but I'm an old school guy. But also, like, the B58 isn't a better engine than the 2J in any way, shape, or form. You know, like the 2J is just a better engine. It's simpler.
I kind of feel like you're trolling. Are you serious?
Don't do that. Nah.
Why do you feel that way?
It's just what it is. The 2J. B58.
It's been what? I don't want to say it's been 3 years. That motor's been around for a couple
B58 is
years.
extremely impressive. From today, what is it? It's 2024.
Yeah.
In 2034, the B58 won't have done what the 2J's done. In 2044, it probably won't either.
What? But okay, so I'm not gonna sit here and obviously debate. I want to understand why you feel that way, because it's only been a few years. So they're already going 7s.
It's an aluminum block. You got to sleeve them. You got to fire ring them. Think about all the dumb shit you have to do to make a B58 live. You know what you have to do on a 2J? You put pistons, rods, and if you want, main caps.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's proven. That's a fact. With a stock head gasket and some bullshit ARP head studs, I could build a 2J for half the money to run at 1600 horsepower for 10 years. And you could, with double that money, you could build a B58 that might do it for a year or two. Now,
are you talking about horsepower numbers or reliability, or?
I'm talking about horsepower and reliability. I mean, the 2J makes, they both make, the B58 makes power, you know, it's a strong engine and it's a good cylinder head. Like the 6-port is, they make good power and everything, but the 2J is just, in my opinion, a more efficient engine, a more reliable engine, and a stronger engine, and just so much simpler.
So what does it take for something like this to go 7s?
Just got to pick the right shop and cut a check.
What? How horsepower wise? I'm saying, like, you know, like how much power
we've
you have
been
to put into
7s with like 1100 horsepower and a 3,400 pound Supra.
Wait, 1100 in this?
Yeah, like 790. We went in 2000 and man, I don't remember the year. We went 790s in the copper Supra, the car, and I went over the scales. The car weighed 3450, and that car made 1080 on our dyno.
What transmission?
Turbo 400. Yeah. That's
okay.
That's where the technology thing comes in, though. So, but I mean, we have customers with Supras that have the A340 trans that have gone, you know, so the factory trans just built that have gone 850s, 860s, you know. And again, I mean, if you're talking about a car that was built in the 90s,
right? That's
impressive, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much faster we could go with that trans reliably. I think Pedro. Baltic Supra, he's been 7s with an A340 trans. So it's like, it's not that it can't be done. It just gets to a point where, why do you want to do it? You know what I mean? Like, if it's going to be breaking stuff all the time or it's going to be difficult to do, why do you want to do it? Yeah, the B58 has, from what it looks like, can run low 8s reliably.
Yeah. But
low 8s in 2024 reliably, and you could run low 9s in 2005. You know what I mean? So I think if you just compare like the times that we're in and the technology that was available, the 2J to me is just more impressive.
That's yeah. You have to go through. You have to live around that time to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah, you
could run low 9s in a Supra and drive it to and from the track and like never work on the thing. 2Js are just solid engines. It's a cast iron block. Like you don't have to do any firing and copper head gasket and call this guy's aunt and uncle and cousin to buy a special head gasket. Like they're just really, really, really strong engines.
So I was at Texas 2K recently and I didn't really see too many Supras. Like
they're dinosaurs. I told you I'm an old man now.
But this motor's there's still cars out there.
No, yeah, and I mean, our entire business at Induction is built around the 2J. So we sell tons of them, we build tons of them, and people are putting them in just about everything. But something that we lack is some structure. So like, there's not a lot of classes and rule sets that we can build these cars around anymore.
Okay.
So like the A90 guys, they kind of have it good, and I don't know how long it'll last this way, but they have an A90 class at TX2K and A90 class at FL2K.
Right.
They have a rule set to fit X Street. They have a rule set to fit Mean Street. They have a rule set to fit Wild Street, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can build an A90 to go racing. If you buy one of these cars and you're like, I want to go racing, you can do that. But what class are you going to run and what rule book are you going to use to build it? And that's something that from owning the racetrack, I've noticed that the import guys, we buy a car, we build it for ourselves, or we build it to compete with numbers we saw on the internet or for a personal goal.
Right.
But what happens is these guys, they buy a car, they build it, they buy this turbo, they buy all this stuff. And it's not that it doesn't work, but then when it's time after you meet your goal to say, all right, I want to go to World Cup finals. Shit, I don't fit any of the rules. So because the turbo I bought is the wrong size, or because I don't have this, or whatever it may be, or my car's too heavy, or my car's too light.
Yeah.
So like domestic guys, a guy wants to build an old school Camaro, let's say, like he's gonna go look at a rule set and he's gonna build it for Ultra Street or X275 or whatever, and they build it around that. So the import stuff just lacks a little bit of that structure, which is getting better recently, but there's just not a lot of rules that we all fit in. And then on top of that, remember, a lot of these cars were built years ago. Some people are rebuilding them now and updating them and so on. But if you built your car, perfect example, a copper car, I said it went 790s, whatever. I think it was like 2016 or 17. That car had a cast 88 millimeter turbo on it. We can run that same time now with a 7275. But if I have that car sitting in my garage, like I want to go racing, and I go look at the rule set, the rules are going to be for a 72, 75 or a 76. You know what I mean? Something because the technology is so much better. Yeah. They're not going to let me run with an 88 because they let me run with an 88. Then they'll let you run with 88. Yeah. But if you run with a 88 millimeter turbo from this century, it's going to be a lot faster. Right? Yeah. Like, so we went 790s with a cast 88 millimeter turbo. That was just what was available. Right. The newest version of that car, the copper car, which is the race car we've been racing, has a Precision 88. It went 634 at 218 miles an hour on its second full quarter mile pass. So it goes back to the technology.
What? Yeah. So you don't think that putting this motor, let's say if I wanted to put this motor in the Mark V.
Oh, it'd be a great car.
But where would I fit?
Where would you fit? Again, you would have to look at the rules and what turbo size you're allowed and all that. But people don't do that. People build their car to go race this guy, to go roll race, to drive on the street. And then eventually it might turn into, I want to drag race, and they put a roll cage in their car and they do all those things. Yeah. But now you might have to go buy a different turbo or different tires or add weight to your car and do all these things to fit a class. So we just lack a lot of that structure because for most of us, we're street car guys, and we just kind of sometimes go down that path and end up wanting to race. You know what I mean? So we're not building it with the intention of drag racing. If more people did do that, it'd be better. And you can see that with the A90 because there are a lot of people that are building A90s to drag race, and they build them within the rules that exist. Right. And that structure kind of keeps everybody in check. Like, thank God that pure transmissions are as good as they are, right? And people have developed that, but there's not really anybody putting turbo 400s in the A90 Supras. Why? Because where would they race?
That's true.
Most of the rule sets require that they run the factory or a version of the factory transmission. Right, right. But so we're keeping them in check. If that rule didn't exist, you might see a couple that wouldn't have gone through the trials and tribulations and the R&D to figure out the factory transmission. You know what I mean?
So if a TH400 goes on a B58, you think it'll do better than?
Yeah, I mean it will. You're just not gonna. You're gonna give up a lot to do that. But yeah, I mean leaving off a trans brake, being able to make gear changes and run different gear sets, different gear ratios. There's better torque converter options. But you're talking more. At that point, you're not gonna want to get in the car and just drive it around. Like it's more of a race oriented deal. Yeah.
So maybe with the TH400 and the B58 or Supra, I should say, maybe it'll run like low 7s, high 6s.
Maybe 2J's still better.
And you still
I see what you're trying to do. You ain't gonna catch me, man.
No, I mean, this episode of the Street Alpha Podcast is brought to you by RACEMOTIVE. Bring your car from the streets to the track at Race Motor Racing events in 2024. From Pocono Raceway, Maryland International Raceway, New Jersey Motorsports Park, and new this year, Maple Grove Raceway, RACEMOTIVE brings you top-tier roll racing events. Their Olympic-style grading system ensures precise measurements for fair competition. From the high-friction NASCAR surface at Pocono to fully prepped drag strips, every race promises excitement and fairness. So bring yourself and your car and use Street Alpha Pod for 10% off all tickets whether you spectate or race at racemotive.com. Don't miss your chance to race with the best. I know it's funny because it's like, I think that going back to what you said about putting the 2J in the Supra, right?
Yeah.
You said it'd be a better car, right? Not sure why you believe that, but like, let's say if I took let's say if I put an RB26 in the Supra.
I mean, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm not an RB guy. I can't.
But would that make sense because it's older stuff, older technology? I mean,
would that make sense? Maybe to an RB guy. I'm a 2J guy.
I know you're a 2J guy, but I'm saying, stuff. But the thing is, you're saying because this motor is old, you know?
It is. It is, but it's still proven to be such a good platform. You don't see people putting RBs in just about anything. You can't think of a car that you haven't seen a 2J. I've seen a 2J DeLorean. I saw a 2JZ front wheel drive Eclipse the other day on the internet. Like,
yeah, people
everywhere. Put 2Js in everything. Why do you think that they do that? Why they don't put RBs in everything? They don't put VR38s in everything, and they damn sure don't put B58s in anything besides
LS. They do
LS. So LS and 2J is probably the two most common engine swaps in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to argue with you.
No,
you're right.
Yeah,
you got it.
No, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it that way.
No, of course I get it.
It'll be hard to convince me that 2J is not just the GOAT.
No, everybody knows it. So you just broke the record too, right?
So I didn't myself. My shop did. My boy Troy Perez was driving the car. So we just got that car together. We missed TX2K. We decided in the last minute that we weren't going to go just because they made a rule change that wasn't going to work out for us for that car. So we'll probably look into it for the next year, but we didn't want to rush and get the car there. So our debut race was going to be the reunion at Bradenton. So with that being said, I was driving Goldie, my Civic, my front wheel drive car. And I don't like to drive two cars in an event. So my boy Troy got in and drove, and we tested, we did really well. And then normally when you have a brand new car, you have the issues right away. It was a little bit after we started testing that we started having issues. So we had to sit that race out. We have some sort of wiring gremlin. We're going to rewire the car. But we've been through a lot. I mean, we've only put 10 passes on that car, less than 10 passes on the car.
Wow.
We scrubbed the wall the week before the reunion, fixed that, then had the electrical gremlins come up, heard an engine, rebuilt an engine, put it in the car.
It's on a Motec?
That car's on Fuel Tech.
Okay.
One of the first cars that we've done at our shop on a Fuel Tech, like of our own.
Okay.
So far, so good. I mean, we expected the car to go as fast as it goes, and the car still has a lot of potential, but we didn't expect it to happen that fast. Like literally, like, I mean, the car doesn't have 10 runs on it. And we motivated some people. So for a short amount of time, we had the quickest 2JZ or quickest import on a radial tire in general.
Right.
And then I woke my boy Larry up, and the Drag International guys went back and reset the record. So it was, I think White Rice went 636. White Rice went 638. I think Larry went 636, and then we went 634. And then we woke Larry up. He came out, went a 630. But the reality is, I mean, and I'm not saying this to sound cocky, but we got a lot left. These guys have a lot of runs on their cars, and not to discredit what they do. Our car is really purpose built. It's light. It's got the best of the best, the latest, greatest. I think that when we come back out, we're going to put that record out of reach.
Really?
Yeah.
So what, can you give me a breakdown, just a quick breakdown of what's done to the motor?
Yes, that one's just that one's a billet block, mainly for reliability and weight. You can fill a 2J with concrete and not have to worry about the block breaking at that level. But then you're adding 100 pounds to the car.
Weight, right.
So it's a billet block. It's one of our, so what's really cool about that car, back to what I was saying, we do all of our own R&D and we like really test all our stuff. The pistons, the rods, the crankshaft, the cylinder head, all the cylinder head components, everything on that car is just regular old bullshit you could buy on our website. There's no custom this, custom that. Every single part that's in that engine of that car is off the shelf, regular deal stuff. So it's just got our Induction Performance HD pistons, Brian Crower crankshaft, MGP rods, Brian Crower head parts. That's it. Just regular stuff. Our regular CNC port, not a custom. We wanted to run our stuff that we sell.
Right.
It's kind of it feels good. It's like a way to brag on our stuff, because we've been telling people for years, like we sell so many engines, we sell cylinder heads, and we sell these parts, and we tell people like, yo, this is all you need. You don't need more than this. Don't let people tell you that you do. Yeah. And now we solidified that. We proved that. Like, yo, everything we've been selling you, we haven't been, you call some places and they'll tell you need a custom piston and it's $2,000. Ours has our off-the-shelf HD piston. You go on our website, you can buy it. That's it. And that stuff has worked great. And
somebody macked.
Somebody just smacked out there.
Yeah. Somebody just macked. I heard it.
Yeah.
Hope they're all right.
Yeah. But it's just off-the-shelf stuff. It's got a Precision 88 M&M transmission, turbo 400 with a lockup converter, fuel tech, simple stuff.
That's it, simple.
Yeah, very simple stuff. I mean, we have a lot. We've seen a lot of really promising things in the few short runs we've made with that car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't really talk about how you kind of migrated to Florida.
Yep.
And like the reason why you went down to Florida and how it led to you obviously getting into the whole track situation with Bradenton.
Yeah. So I didn't have much say. I was like 16. My parents wanted to move.
Yeah.
I had to move. It's crazy, man, looking back at it. When I moved to Florida, I absolutely hated it. The scene was different. Everything I knew, everyone I knew, and just the way of life, everything that I knew was different. Was different.
Yeah.
And at the time that I moved to Florida, it was not what it is now. Like, I watched the area that I live in be completely developed. It was nothing. Like,
where'd you move to?
Tampa area. So like North Tampa, Wesley Chapel is where I moved to. And at the time, you had to drive 25 minutes to go to a grocery store, 30 minutes to go to a grocery store. It was like there was nothing out there.
Wow.
But looking back at it, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I was able to grow with that area. Mm-hmm. I got into the car scene. I had a lot of support from my dad in that sense. I would steal his car and go to the street races and stuff like that. Anyway, so I got into the car scene down there. It led to working on Supras again. When we moved down there, my dad kind of gave up the Supra thing as far as working on them. He just went back to the general repair thing.
Yeah.
I started tinkering with the Supras and playing with the Supras. That led to, we ended up having, same thing. We'd go street racing. We would do well. We'd go to the track, whatever the case. Yeah. We ended up getting so busy. We were working on cars nonstop. At the time, Alpha was just doing his own thing, tuning cars. And we started working together. Alpha would send us people. We would send him people. Mm-hmm. He would go to the dyno with a customer. They'd have issues. He'd be like, go call, Vic, and those guys, they'll take care of you, whatever. Yeah. So me and, Denny, one of the guys that still works with us, been with us since day one, we would work on these cars. Alpha would tune them. And it just like kind of all fell together. So then one day we were just like, man, we should do this full time. So March 2010 or 11, I don't even remember, man. Yeah. We just said we were going to do it. We opened a shop. We bought a dyno. It got really good. We started going to TX2K in 2007 and sponsoring it through my dad's shop. And probably like 2010, so many people from Florida would go to TX2K. Like we would caravan, we would roll deep to TX2K. We're like, man, we need something like this in Florida. Like, why don't we have something like this in Florida? So I would go to Bradenton all the time. Yeah. And I made friends with the people that would work there in the lanes and like just whoever, because I was there all the time testing customer cars, my own car, whatever. My boy Petey still works for us. I begged him one day. I was like, I really need you to get me in touch with the owner, please. I want to do an event. He goes, dude, he's not gonna. I just don't think he's gonna go for it. I'm like, Petey, get this man in front of me. I want to do an event. So long story short. Alan Shervitz walks into my shop one day and he says, is Victor here? And I'm like, yeah. And I thought maybe I was going to jail or I owed some taxes or something. I don't know. I was a random guy, right? So I'm like, yeah. So I started talking to him and he gave me my shot. He said he gave me a date.
For an event.
Right. And then it became which is the hardest part about doing any event. I had to name the event. So naturally, I wanted to call it FL2K. Yeah. But the right thing to do was reach out to Peter Block at TX2K, be like, hey, I want to do this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He was a little skeptical, but I think he knew that I would do a good job of it. And he gave me the blessing. So like the 2K thing is trademarked. The reason you don't see people doing 2K events everywhere is because they can't.
And with cars, you mean? Or just
with cars, okay. Yeah. So TX2K and FL2K are the only two. So Peter Block gave me the blessing. Alan gave me the blessing. 2013, we did our first FL2K. We had like 2 months to promote it, and it was great. But now I'm doing it. It's my first time really doing this event.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was whatever. But I'm like, I hope they'll let me do it again.
Yeah.
So we met afterwards, and I'm just like nervous. Like, how's this going to go? Are they happy with the event? They going to let me do it again? And in the end of the event, he's like, so can we do this again? And I was like, absolutely. So I got a date. We were locked in, and it was just history from there. So 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, banger events. We went from being just like a small event at Bradenton to being one of the biggest events at Bradenton. And Bradenton holds good events. It has for years. Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, like 50 years going. US Street Nationals, like 20 years going. We quickly started making waves. 2018, Alan jokingly asked me if I would want to buy the track. And I thought it was a joke. Wasn't sure how I was going to make it happen. But I did, and the rest is history.
So how much did you purchase the track for? I think you spoke about this before, but I don't remember what the number was.
You know what's crazy is I don't really remember the exact number because it was Alan and he had a partner. So I bought from Alan, and then I quickly bought out his partner, and I've just been investing money into that place since. I don't remember the exact number. It was, what did I say? It's probably like $2 or $3 million, something like that.
For a track.
Yeah. Which, I mean, this was in 2018. Yeah. That's a whole. He called me today to buy it. I would be stuck. But honestly, I didn't think it was possible. But surrounded by really good people, really good support system. I can go on for a long time about that.
Yeah.
And mainly Alan. I was handpicked. Me and him became really, really close in those 5 years that I was doing those events. And he saw something in me that he believed that I could do it. And he handpicked me, that he wanted me to be the person to take it to the next level and keep it going. So we made it happen. And now FL2K is the biggest event that we do at Bradenton. Biggest event of the year.
So do you think that, cause I never actually been there yet, at least, which I think I'll be there this year.
Yeah, you got to come to FL2K. Come on, man.
I'll be there hopefully this year. But do you think that the weather kind of plays a big role in having events there in Florida because of the rain? Like, does that mess up a lot of...
I mean, it's tricky. So, like, the reality is we only really get from, like, October to March with good weather.
Yeah.
As far as, like, good enough weather to do events.
Okay.
The rest of the time, the rain chances are bad. But we roll with it, man. Like, we've had several FL2Ks where we've had a couple showers and like we got a really good team, we have really good equipment, and we have really good surface. We get back on it and we go and we run records. Like, so when I think this would go for any track in Florida. You learn how to deal with that weather, because if you don't, you'll go out of business.
Right.
I remember when I first bought the track, it was, to this day, it was the most rain I've ever seen. Like the worst rainy season we've ever had. Right when I bought it in like April or May, and I didn't make any money until like, we didn't have any income until September. And now here I am, like, you know, this was a huge deal for me. And I'm just like, yo, what am I going to do? How am I going to even survive?
Right.
And I didn't have the knowledge and the equipment and the know-how to make it through. And it was good. It was a good experience. I learned a lot really fast because I had no choice but to learn. And yeah, I think, you know, if you have a track in Florida, you got to know, even in just the Southeast, you have to know how to deal with this stuff.
Yeah.
But we have a really good surface. We have a hard working crew. Like I said, we've only not finished one FL2K because it rained at the end of the event. Yeah. And at that point, most people don't want to stay over till Monday.
Right.
We've only ever not finished one event. So it's been since 2013 or 2024, over 10 events.
Yeah, my luck has been shitty this year, unfortunately. I went down there and it was just like raining, and then this weekend, another raining event. It's like, come on, man.
RACEMOTIVE.
So Florida, I think when we went back, I think it was better when we went back to Florida, but the first time that whole weekend was just done. And the rain over there, from what I've experienced, it like rains. Like,
yeah, but so like there's a couple things about it. So like sometimes it could be raining, like legitimately. We've had events where we stop racing because it's raining on the starting line, but not at the top end, or so raining at the top end, not at the starting line. Yeah. We've had events where we're looking at the rain like, please don't come here, please don't come. And it's right. Like you can see the drips coming out of the sky, the water dropping out of the sky, and it doesn't hit the track. But also like when it's hot and that water hits the track, it goes away quick. Yeah. Because it's so hot, the surface is so hot.
That's true. So, I didn't think about that either. Yeah. So you think social media has played a big role? I know you have a lot of influencers that go to that track now. I mean, business. Yeah, Bradenton is very fortunate in that sense. Shout out to my boy Cletus McFarland. That's my brother from another mother. And it's like, but it in a way it's been organic because we're all just like friends. Like, and we really like this shit. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, Cletus lives and breathes this shit. So do I. And now we've got tons of influencers that create a ton of content at our track and are always at our track. You can go to our track for a regular test and tune to see Cletus McFarland, the Boosted Boys, Cooper Bugatti. Yeah. You don't know who you'll bump into. I know, it's like so cool. It's always something that's popping at Bradenton. And we've given these guys a platform and a place that they can create this content. Yeah. And it's cool because again, like we're not putting a lot of effort into it in the sense that like this is just what we do. Right. Like the shenanigans you see, this is just a day in the life. You know what I mean? But it's cool, and we're very blessed to all of us to share this success and share the following and the support that we get from all the people we get it from. And Bradenton, that area has really that's probably the accident that we just heard. Probably, yeah. But that area has really, really, really embraced that track. Yeah. And our local support system is insane, man. It's a special place. Yeah. It really is. I say that and people think I'm just saying it because I own it, but it is. I've always felt that way. And a lot of people feel that way. It's got a lot of history, really good track, really fast track, a lot of records. I mean, it's just an awesome place. If you like racing and you like cars, you can't go wrong at Bradenton. Yeah. I think you're very smart for that because a lot of people who are in kind of like their own traditional roots of like, racing, they don't really like to get involved with like the newer people. Like no, we love that. We really do love it. We embrace it. We support it. You should hear some of the phone calls I get for ideas like, hey, we want to do this and video it at your track. And I'm like, oh, but we let them do it. You know what I mean? Like we figure it out. We figure out the safe way to do it. I mean, you see like Cletus does ride-alongs. Yeah, I know. With people right off the street out there with a $20 sign, and like he'll do it on the track. And like a lot of people don't realize, but like the effect of that. We took a random person off the street and sign a waiver.
Yeah, but either way, they experience something that they may have never otherwise experienced.
Coming home from work.
You know what I mean? And now they're hooked. Yeah. They're going to come back and they're going to tell everybody about it. And they're going to share that video. And people just don't see the trickle effect that all these things have. Mm-hmm. Like Cooper Bugatti does his podcast now. Yeah. And like what's so cool about his podcast is that he has so many good people all the time on his podcast. And why? Because there's always a badass event happening in Bradenton, and he's smart. He pays attention. He'll get Clay Milliken, Lyle Barnett, whoever he can get that's coming. He's got top fuel guys. He's got Wes Buck from Drag Illustrated. He's coming to his house in Bradenton to do a podcast. Like Bradenton is like really on the map. In my opinion, as far as like we would be considered an outlaw track, I think we're the most popular or like happening one right now.
I agree. And I think that I feel like even if it was in New York, it'd still be difficult to make to make that happen because just of the culture in New York, you know how it is. Yeah. But I think that it definitely helps a lot when you have influencers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And any business. But for the track, it's smart.
That's the positive of social media.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's the positive. Like going back to what we said before. Yeah. So you have now turned kind of I don't want to say turn Induction Performance into like not just building cars, but you're also doing parts. Is that?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that correct?
So for a long time, it was always that we were just known for building cars.
Yeah.
But obviously when you build cars, you get into the parts game a little bit.
Right.
So we've developed a lot of our own parts. We have a lot of our own part numbers. Like I was mentioned earlier, pistons. We have the coil pack kits for the 2Js. We have a bunch of 2J parts. We have an engine program. We're a huge dealer for Brian Crower, Turbo Smart, Precision Turbo, Fuel Injector Clinic. Like we're a stocking warehouse for a lot of these companies, and we sell a lot of parts. And it's cool. I enjoy the parts thing because I enjoy helping people. And like when you sell people parts to build their car, you can really like ruin their project. Like if you call me and you say, hey, I want to buy a Precision XPR 88 millimeter turbo for my car.
Okay.
I'm going to make a lot more money selling you that turbo than selling you the turbo that you need, which is probably a 7275 or a 6870. But I'm not going to just let you buy that 88.
Right.
I'm going to be like, hey man, I don't think that makes sense. And I'm going to explain it to you and I'm going to help you. And like, I enjoy that part of it. And all of the guys that work at, at our place that do the parts, we're all car guys. We all have cars. We all have a little bit of knowledge of building cars, and we all kind of share that. So we enjoy that, and we enjoy sharing our experience and like our knowledge. Like we've done turbo testing, we've done camshaft testing, we've done injector testing, we've done ECU testing. So like we enjoy sharing the kind of tribal knowledge that we have with our customers and making sure that they get the right stuff, because we create long-term relationships. Right. So we've got guys that buy parts from us now for A90 Supras, that bought parts from us for GTRs, for Mark IV Supras, for 7Ms, like 1Js, RBs. We've had customers that throughout every project that they've had, they've maintained that relationship and called us for parts because we've always helped them as much as we can. And when we can't, we tell them where to go or where we think they should go. And it's just one of those things. It's the same thing like I was saying, like we really love this shit. Yeah. So we don't wake up every day to do it for money. We wake up to do it because we enjoy doing it. You know what I mean? Like we're not just punching in a clock. Like we really enjoy this stuff. We meet great people. I've made some of my best friends doing car stuff. Some customers have turned into my great friends. And that's why we do it. And, we're blessed that we're able to pick and choose what cars we want to build and what people we want to work with and what parts we do want to sell and don't want to sell. Like we don't have there are shops that they'll take your job and they'll do it and they won't do a great job of it because they have to. Yeah. That's how they're paying the rent. Right. They'll sell you parts that they don't believe in or that they don't use or they don't know anything about because they have to. You're right. That's the exact opposite of our entire brand. Our deal is that we only sell stuff that we use, only sell stuff that we have experience with and knowledge of, and extensive knowledge. Right. And it's worked out. It's been cool. And it's been fun. We've met a lot of really good people and it's been a good recipe.
Do you think that the economy plays a role in this? Because I feel like a lot of people are kind of straying away from doing like builds. They're doing more part stuff now.
You definitely see a difference when the economy is funny. And like this being an election year and being a very important election year, you definitely see it. It's, you have a month where it's a little slower, but then the next month kind of makes up for it. Yeah. So we're not seeing it in the fact that we're like struggling, but we're seeing it in that it's not as steady as it was even just last year. Yeah. But I mean, just like I know, car guys we're sick, dude.
Figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, we're gonna get that part. We might not get it this month. We're gonna get that part.
That's a fact. Yeah. So I said that because I know there's like YouTube channels that are not doing performance stuff, they're doing more part stuff. So it's kind of, and these are big companies too that are not even doing builds anymore. They're focusing on parts. So, I mean, you still have the confidence if you want to buy a part from your company or either like, another company like Real Street or whatever that you're going to get, they answer, they're very, informative too. But I just was curious because the economy, is kind of in a weird spot right now. So I wasn't sure if it was because of that.
We'll see it more on the build side because people that build their own cars, they're going to always buy the parts because, I mean, the car's sitting in your garage or whatever the case. It may be a little harder to pay somebody to work on your car, and you may want to or put your project on hold. And you can do that in your garage. You can't do that when your car's at a shop, right? Like, hey, hold off, I'm working on my car. Like that ain't gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
So you probably see it a little more on that side. We're really, really, really picky about what projects we'll do.
Okay.
As far as like in the shop, we probably turn down 5 times the amount of work that we take in, because we want to do builds start to finish. We don't do any, I was working on the car with my buddy, I just need you guys to finish it, or I just need, we do it from the beginning to the end. And if we can't do it the way that we like, if we don't feel that there's going to be a good result in the end, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
And again, that's a luxury that we have that a lot of shops don't have.
Right.
They need that labor. They're going to do it. They're going to take your hodgepodge shit or your used parts or your homemade shit and put it on your car, have a bad result, and you're going to bash them on the internet. Not me. Been there, done that. Ain't happening. Either we do it right or we don't do it at all.
Yeah.
I'm huge on that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I feel bad because I just I have my daily out there. Our car's been sitting in the driveway for 3 years. And I took it to my boy around the corner to get some stuff done, and he couldn't even get the brakes, like the drums off, because it was like all rusted out. And he's like, "Yo, I don't do this shit, bro." Like, he's like, "I'm only doing it because you're my boy, but like, I don't want to deal with like."
Dude, I'm bad. Like, not even for my boy. You would have been messed up with me. I wouldn't have done it. Like,
I know. I felt bad.
I legitimately like. I have family members that I send them somewhere. Like, I don't do it for them because it's just not. If it's not what we do, like you bring me one of these cars. I have the parts on the shelf. Like, we could do it quickly, efficiently, and well.
Yeah.
You bring me, if I do one of these and an A90 and a GTR and 3 or 4 other different platforms in a week, I'm just slowing myself down.
Right.
You're like, our tools are set up for this, or not. Like, we are set up to do 2J stuff.
Right.
So, like, being able to only do 2J stuff exclusively only makes us better.
Right.
We have tons of parts on the shelf for them. We have engines built, ready to go, cylinder heads, built, ready to go, turbo kits, intake manifolds, injectors. I could just walk around the shop and put together a whole car.
Yeah.
You can go on our website and buy every single thing you need to build a Supra from start to finish, and we have it. So it just makes us better. We give you a better product and we give it to you faster.
How do you feel about the that dart block, that new casting?
It's really cool. So we've been working a lot behind the scenes with Dart on that block, and we sent them a couple failures, like blocks that had cracks in them, and we just shared a lot of the data and input that we've had over the years. We built one of the first ones. We actually just started shipping them.
Really?
This week we're shipping 5 of them to customers. Yeah.
Wow. So it's all. I mean, I saw they did some testing on it.
Yeah. So we did some testing. We got one in a car. It's been low 7s. We noticed right away the coolant pressure was way down. So the head gasket is sealing up better. The block is a little different in the sense that it doesn't have some of the coolant jackets that the factory block has.
Okay. And
those are the weak points of the block. So we've improved that. It's a really, really, really solid piece. It's better material. It's thicker. We have a whole video on our YouTube. It's got a bunch of views. And like we measure the thickness of the block in like every single location. And we went through the whole build process. What strokes fit, what rods fit, all that. We've done all that already. We validated a lot with it. And like I said, we got it in a car that's really fast. That we put it in a car that was kind of at the edge of what the factory casting would hold, and a car that has already cracked the factory casting. Okay. In their weak point. So the problem we're having with the 2J stuff is they're getting older. So like these cores that we get, some of them are 200,000 mile core out of a Lexus IS300 or an SC300 or whatever. And you got to punch it 86.5 or 87 millimeter just to get it to clean up. Right. And now you're making the cylinder walls even thinner. Right. And you can almost see the coolant crossover in the block. Like when you run them, you can, like you take them apart, you can see those lines from where that existed before. So it doesn't have that. But anyways, we put a block in a car that has a next gen precision 8685, which that's right when you get to the point of cracking the 2J block, right around 1600.
That's still crazy though.
Yeah. So, but the car, we literally took a cracked one out, put this one in, turned it up, did beat on it as much as we could, and so far it's been solid. So we're starting to ship them, we're starting to build them. I mean, that's gonna be really, really cool. That's new life for the 2J platform, which we were talking about this earlier. Like, I don't know when it ends. Like, I thought for sure that by now we would be doing GTRs and whatever was going to come after GTRs, but the Supra 2J stuff has just not died down at all. People are putting them in everything. Right. Yeah. And then the Supra's become, it's one of the few cars you could buy, modify, and sell and make and get your money back or break even. And if you bought it at the right time, you can even make money. They've become so valuable that people are just updating old cars that had old builds, you know what I mean? Like new turbos, new ECU, they might get a dart block. So the 2J stuff is alive and well, man. It's strong. We got the first 20 of those dart blocks and we sold them like that.
So who is that for? Like what kind of driver is that for? Is that for the guys at the track only, or is that for
no? I mean, so that's the beauty of it. So like stock oil pump works, stock oil pans work, stock water pump. Like I could take this car, drive it to the shop, take this motor out, take the head off of it, turbo kit, everything off of it, put it on that dart block, drop it in the car and go. Stock motor mount location, stock everything. So it all works. It's really for anybody. You don't need it until you get to that power level, in my opinion. If you run 1,400 horsepower for an extended amount of time, you might crack a block, maybe. 1,600 where you need it. And seeing these street cars getting so much faster and faster and faster, now we're at a point where there are guys, like we have tons of customers that run 730s, 740s and full street cars. And they were either cracking factory blocks every once in a while or putting billet blocks in their car, which were way more money. Now they have that option to get the dart block. Or if you have just a car that you're doing a 2J swap, it might make more sense financially to just buy a dart block with the 4-bolt mains already on it. Like it comes to you with 4-bolt main caps, upgraded main studs. It's so much easier to build, and you don't have to go to a machine shop and do main caps. You don't have to buy main caps. You don't have to buy all these things.
It's already set.
In some instances, it may work out better. And like if you're in that 1,400 to 1,600 horsepower range, in my opinion, having the dart as an option, it doesn't make sense to even build your cast block. Because if you build it and it does break, either you're going to build another one and be over the dart block, or you're just going to go end up buying a dart block anyway. So you might as well just rip the Band-Aid off and get it. So it's something that's really cool. If you were building a car and you just wanted the best, the latest and greatest, the strongest, you could do it and make 1,000 horsepower, no problem. Or if you want to build a 2,000 horsepower street strip car, you could do that, no problem. And what's cool about it is that it runs water through it like a factory block. Like you can drive it on the street. You don't have to worry about that. Where with the billet blocks, that could become an issue. They have wet ones, but they're not great. So it's definitely going to be really cool, and I think it's going to bring a lot of new life to the 2JZ platform for years to come.
The thing is, with that kind of power on the street, like how are you? Because that's the main thing I always hear about Supras is that these cars don't really race from a day.
Well, that's the problem is so few people work on them to make them work.
Got you.
Like because you could take this car and make it a very fast street car. I don't street race for obvious reasons.
Right.
If I still lived in New York, I would probably have no choice, and I probably wouldn't own a racetrack, and I probably would street race. I will confidently say to you right now, if I still street raced, I would have one of these that would be a problem on the street because it can work. You just have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Put some, like, guys don't have to do that with the Audi RS3s. Guys don't have to do that with the A90s. They don't have to do that with these newer cars, the GTRs. Like, they work on the street very well. They, have DCTs, all-wheel drive. If I wanted to, I can get busy in one of these cars, and I could. I'm telling you, I could make a very, very, very fast 2J street car, and I could street race it with the best of them if I wanted to. It's just not something I want to do. And there's other people that could do it.
Yeah, you don't see it though.
But not a lot of people are trying and putting in the effort. Right. Like, you can move some weight around. You can do some suspension things. You can do. There's a lot you can do. You make one of these things hook. You make it light enough. It's gonna be fast.
So why don't you just build one and have somebody else drive it?
I don't do anything with street racing, man. I've been around this so long that I've seen some really bad shit on the streets. And being at the track and racing at the track more and seeing the benefit of those concrete walls on the side of the track, having an EMT on site, the roll cage, the harnesses, the Hans devices, the helmets, seeing this safety equipment, like saving people's lives. Yeah. You can't unsee that. Right. So it's like a lot of people I didn't know to the extent that I know now. Knowing what I know now, I just can't have anything to do with it, man. It's too much. But I mean, there's probably a reality where maybe we'll do some no prep racing one day with one of them at a track.
That'd be
and
cool.
we could prove the point. But like, if you move some weight around and you get the car to be light enough, you put the weight in the right places, you put the right suspension, you do some long travel struts, like 400 with a nice loose converter, and then have a lockup so you can lock it up on the big end. I'll build a 2J.
Take notes.
You take notes. This is free right here. I promise you, I could build a 2J that could run 7s on a draggy on the street. I might do it just because you're looking at me crazy too. To be very honest,
7s on the draggy.
Yeah,
on the street?
I might do it.
You know, they were clowning. Shout out to Tony, but they were clowning him because he said he could do a 7 on the street on the draggy, and they laughed at him. The Honda guys.
I mean, yeah, you can.
In a GTR at that.
Yeah, I mean that's easy.
But they were laughing. They said, "There's no way you're going to do 7s on the street."
Yeah, they're just haters, or they just don't know any better. I don't know, but I promise you, I could do it. I might. You looked at me kind of crazy when I said it. I might do it. I might do it. You might mess around and find out.
I'm not gonna lie. I gotta see that, man.
You might mess around and find out.
I'm not questioning your knowledge or anything like that, but I gotta see that, bro. I don't know.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I know that saying it sounds crazy. Like, I know.
Yeah.
That,
definitely.
But
definitely.
It's the technology exists. The parts exist.
Now, yeah, right.
At the end of the day, it's weight and horsepower. 2Js make horsepower. You can make the cars lighter than a GTR.
Mm-hmm.
You can make them lighter than a lot of these cars if you really want to. And then once you make the car really light, you can put the weight where you want to put it, right?
Right.
So now, okay, I got the weight transfer right. I get the right suspension, good tires, right gear ratios. There's a lot of things you could do. I could build a 7-second street Supra, like a Supra that could do it on the street. I promise you I could.
I think that's part of the problem though with how street racing is now, or just racing in general, because you have a business, you obviously can't get involved in that, but like nobody now with these newer cars like the BMWs, they're not gonna figure those things out anymore. I feel like they just drop it off at a shop and But also again, those cars are just, a lot of that work is already done. Yeah, it works already.
Yeah, they work well already. But the problem is too, like, even if I didn't own a track, what would be my motivation to build a car like that? Because I would bring it out one time, beat the shit out of somebody, and nobody would ever race me again. That's how it is, because they're scared to lose on social media. And,
GTRs would probably be the best.
They'd be the only ones that would race, and they would be dead too.
This is from a dig, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, that GTRs from a dig don't faze me at all. If you know about GTRs, you know how to beat GTRs. I'll put it to you like that. Yeah. You let go of your brake and you got to wait. There's a delay before the car even moves.
Yeah.
You know, you've been in the street races. If a man leaves before you, you have to be significantly faster than him to catch him and pass him. GTR from a roll, yeah, sure. That's a hard car to beat. You can put 2,500 horsepower down from a roll like nothing. But no, I'm not. GTRs don't faze me at all.
You're talking, but you can't even do anything, man. It sucks.
I mean, you can't find a GTR that can beat me on the track either, so it don't matter.
Okay. Well, you can't argue with the Supra stuff, the 2J stuff either. So I get it. You got that.
So my boy Mac, Shop Houston, he seems to think he has like this. He lives in a fairy tale land.
Yeah.
He's got a rear wheel drive turbo 400 GTR, and it's in my opinion, it's the baddest R35 on the planet. And he seems to think that he could play with us too. He can't. Just like, I don't think there's a VR38 car. Actually, matter of fact, I'm going to say this. There's not an import that has steel roof and quarters, like a real import car on 275 tires that we don't want smoke with. We will race anyone. We'll gamble. We'll race for free. We'll make you cook for us if you want. If you don't want to gamble, it don't matter. You can't beat us. I promise you. What we have shown to the world with our car is what we've wanted to show. I promise you, once we're working on a couple small issues because it's a brand new car, get that car back out in the next week or two. Anybody with an import on a 275 tire, call me up, DM me, whatever you want to do.
On a 275
free smoke,
tire.
Free smoke. You don't even have to be on a 275, but let's just so it's even.
Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to come on here and start talking like that. I thought we were gonna get
I'm in New York, background. So it's this energy.
I'm not knocking it. It's just like we in New York.
It's this energy that I get when I get here. But no, I mean, I'm a competitive person.
Yeah,
and I can say all that, and somebody can come and prove me wrong, and I hope that I welcome it. You know what I'm saying? But I promise you, if they do, I'm not going away. I'm that kid that you beat me up in school, and every time you see me, you got to fight me. And until I win, we're fighting.
Ooh. Okay. Damn, I haven't done a call out in a minute. Like nobody's ever. It's been I kind of stay away from that because it's getting kind of corny. But
no, it's corny because
it's different. Yeah,
it's corny because a lot of cats don't mean it.
But you're active. Yeah, you're active.
And we hit the road. We'll come to you. I'm very serious. Like when I get like this, when I feel that I want to prove what my team is capable of, and I get in the car, strap in a car, like I take this shit very serious. Like very serious. And I just came off a win 2 weeks ago. I'm feeling froggy. When
you texted me, I was like, oh, I saw it too a couple days before. I was like, oh, we got to talk about that. But I was like, I can't even make it down there. I was like, damn, but you flew out here, so it ended up working out.
And you're going to come to FL2K. We're going to put on a show for you. By FL2K, we'll be very well sorted because, again, it's a brand new car. We do not have 10 runs on the car. Mm-hmm. That car was built to compete in the Extreme 28s class at FL2K, which we also did at the reunion. By FL2K, I welcome all contenders.
And what's the record now?
The record now is 630 in the quarter, 630. And 8th miles, White Rice went 403, which is crazy. They also don't want smoke. Those are my boys. But again, I promise you, we will have the fastest import in the world on a 275 tire.
On a 275 tire.
Yeah, and once we do that, maybe we'll put a different tire on it too and do it again. But we will have the fastest import in the world on a 275 tire, period, end of discussion. I don't want to hear nothing else about it. If you feel some kind of way, call me, we'll race.
Well, there you guys have it. I mean, back to the cause, but we're in New York, like he said, so we had to. So what's next for you and the track business and so on, leading up until FL2K?
So we got one more stop. I wasn't going to do it, but we also have the front wheel drive cars that we race. We have two of them. Goldie that I drive. We just won the reunion. Car was parked since October, FL2K.
Yeah.
Brought it out the trailer, shook the cobwebs off, and won the reunion, which was good. But anyways, coming off a win, so feeling froggy, like I said. We're gonna come up to Maple Grove for import revival, see if we can't maybe do it again. And then we're going to do, like I said, we're going to focus on the Supra. It's hard because we have a shop full of cars and a lot of parts to sell, and we have a lot going on. After import revival, we're going to focus on the Supra, try to figure out a couple small things, like just new car stuff, that we got to work through, and do a lot of testing. Because, like I said, FL2K, we're trying to win. Yeah. We're trying to win FL2. Really, what we're trying to do with that car, we're going to try to go to FL2K and win, go to World Cup Finals right after that and win our class, and then go to TX2K and win. And if we win all three of those, block me or something, because I'm going to be talking crazy. You ain't going to want to hear from me after that. Block me on the internet. I'm going to be talking shit to everybody. But, we took a break from racing at a high level because we have so much going on. We are so busy. And when I bought the track, all my focus went to that. I think it's time, it's like when you don't do something for a while, people forget. So
yeah, that's true.
I think it's just time. Like, it just feels right. It feels like it's time to prove what we know we can do. We know it's not for us. Right. We want to prove it to, we want to prove it to the haters and to anybody who thinks we can't do it. So that's going to be the focus. By FL2K, we'll be a well-oiled machine. We'll have, hopefully by then we have 50 runs on the car. These, the guys that we race have hundreds of passes on their car, and that makes 10. A huge difference.
That is massive.
We did a lot really quickly, and I think that it kind of made us expect more, and it made others expect more. And we want more, but like in under 10 runs, we made a lot of noise. Yeah, we get 50, it's going to be a problem. The car's going to be dialed in. It's going to be consistent, and we got two really good drivers for that car. So we're ready to go.
Well, much success to you and your business, your car, induction, the track, everything. I'm excited to go to FL2K this year. This is like my first year going to all these events. I've always wanted to go.
Yeah.
Never had a reason. To me, it was just like, what's the point of going? I'm just going to be a spectator, you know?
Yeah. FL2K is a vibe, man. You
Yeah.
ask anybody, they're going to tell you you're going to have a good time.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't rain.
I don't know why you say, don't say that word.
No, you're right. But it's been every fucking event. It's so annoying, bro.
Oh, wait. If you bring it, that's going to be a problem because you're saying that you
might be me. I don't know.
You're saying it might be you.
I don't know.
But nah, FL2K is a really, really, really good event. It's the thing about FL2K, I think that draws a lot of people, and myself included, is that it really does have this like unique vibe to it. It's a lifestyle event. It's a drag race. And it's a party. Like you can't have a bad time at FL2K. You can walk around FL2K, you won't find a single person that's upset. Everybody's smiling. They're standing along the fence line. Their bleachers are full. The energy is next level. You're gonna have a good time.
Okay. Well, I'll hold you to it. Can you tell the viewers where to find you?
Yeah. So check us out on Instagram or Facebook, Induction Performance, Bradenton Motorsports Park, FL2K, my personal page, IPVic. We're always on there talking about what we're doing, maybe talking a little shit and just pushing to the next level with everything that we do, you know, whether it's events or Supra builds, Honda racing, whatever we're doing, we love this shit. Like I keep telling you, we just try to push it and do the best at it that we can.
Right.
We're going to have a good year. We started off strong, first race we went to, we won. And, I got 3 more that I'm coming for.
Are you coming out here for Tri-State? Shout out to my guy Frank, bro. Frank, in the beginning,
that's my dog.
Frank was like hooking me up with like, yo, interview this guy. Like shout out to Frank.
So we came to Tri-State meet last year. We took home 2 trophies.
Yeah.
So for us, like the Supra, the wrap that's on the Supra is to pay homage to the Paisley Automotive Supra, which was like one of the most iconic Supras of its time. In the early 2000s, I think it was the first to go 10s, first to go 9s, first to go 8s, something, maybe all 3 of those. So our wrap is to pay homage to that. That car was a huge figure in the Northeast. So we'll probably bring that for the Tri-State Supra meet and just show it off. And we'll bring some other stuff. You know, we do a lot of business in the Tri-State. Alpha tunes tons of cars up here.
Yeah.
And this is where it all started for me.
Where it all started. Right?
So we'll probably be out there with some stuff.
I hope to see you there, man. You were there, and I was there, but I had no idea that you were even there until after you left. So I was like, damn.
Yeah,
so,
we were there. We were chilling. We got some trophies. It was cool. It was a good time.
It was a cool event.
It brought me back to the roots. I did Super Meet. I have the T-shirt. I gotta send you a picture. I did a Super Meet at Englishtown in like 2004, and I got so. Seeing it, still around, still doing its thing, like a Northeast Super.
Nah, he's definitely got.
Meet.
That's like the biggest. I think it's like the biggest Super Meet. In the Tri-State area for sure.
So we'll be there.
Dope. Well, thank you so much for coming out here.
Yep.
Thank you so much for actually doing the interview here because you kind of saved me the trip. I won't have to go to Florida.
No, we're gonna do this again though. So when you come for FL2K,
after
we could do something before or after, and I'll get some of the boys.
Yeah, we can do that.
We'll do something cool.
I know you want to do that this time too with Mac. But
Mac was saying he wanted to get on here, and then in my head I was like, you know what? If he does come, I'm gonna end up embarrassing him. He's my boy, but but nah, he'll
that actually would have been good. I didn't because based on the spicy talk you just had, that would have been actually pretty.
Me and this dude go at it. You have no idea.
That would have been good.
Me and him must have grown up around the same thing because me and him go at it. We're boys. That's my boy.
Yeah.
Like that's my man, but me and him go at it, and he's gonna have to see us at FL2K too. We're in the same class, so at FL2K, all this stuff comes to a head. Everybody that's been talking, everybody that I've been talking to, we're all gonna be on the same property, and the only thing you could do is race. That's it. You could either race or you could be like that dude, and you could be a punk. That's it.
Oh man, shout out to Mac. We'll get him on the podcast too.
Cool.
So. Yeah, thank you so much, bro.
All right, thank you.
For those who are listening and watching, make sure you guys like, share, comment, and subscribe. Keep listening on all streaming platforms, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.